The next day, Chi-suk looks over the identical designs Young-eun and In-ae have handed in for Sono and Claire-Marie respectively. Young-eun's design team is outraged. Chi-hyung and So-young go to speak privately, and he accuses her of leaking the design. So-young denies it and puts him in his place when he tells her to put real effort into her job. Back in Chi-suk's office, Chi-suk admits that she knows Young-eun would never copy someone else's design. Unfortunately, now that Chi-suk oversees Claire-Marie, she's also unwilling to reprimand In-ae or let Sono use the design. Young-eun wants to begin an investigation into the leak, but Chi-suk talks her down. Young-eun finally stands up for herself, calling out Chi-suk In-ae obnoxious behavior. Do-hoon calls Chi-suk to tell her she left her scarf at his place. Chi-suk lets him keep it as a gift to signal that they've progressed within their relationship. Do-hoon takes this as a romantic sign. Jae-guk is out taking photos of a popular mural artist in action for Vision PR, Do-hoon's company. While Mi-suk researches the chances of a misdiagnosis, Suho and Min-kyung plan an overnight trip for the weekend. Chi-hyung continues to hound So-young. He's confident that he saw her on the CCTV, but she's equally confident that whatever he saw won't prove she's the leak. Young-eun goes to find out which fabric is left for Sono to use. There is only basic jersey. While she plays around with it in the storeroom, Jae-guk arrives with a lunch offering after hearing about the fabric fiasco from Do-hoon. In a more high-end setting, Chi-suk has taken Do-hoon, clad in her scarf, out for lunch. She asks him how to sway Jae-guk, and Do-hoon goes from hopeful to dejected. A freelance model named Pete comes up to their table to greet Chi-suk. Do-hoon gives Pete a once-over before handing over his business card. Chi-suk mistakes this as Do-hoon making a move and hurries to excuse herself. Pete stops Chi-suk, telling her that Do-hoon is straight. Do-hoon storms out with Chi-suk on his heels. When she trips, he catches her with an arm around her waist, sending her heart racing. Do-hoon proclaims that he's a man with emotions and a heart before leaving. Back in the storeroom, Jae-guk shows Young-eun his photos of the mural artist. She's struck with inspiration for Sono's new designs. Out in the hallway, a promotion list has been released, and So-young isn't on it. In-ae passes by and shoots a smug look at Sunju, another designer on Young-eun's team. When they reconvene at Sono's office space, Sunju breaks into tears and admits to leaking the designs in exchange for the promise of a promotion. Young-eun overhears and goes straight to In-ae and berates her for toying with her team and declares that she'll take In-ae to court if she tries it again. Chi-hyung and So-young talk privately again. So-young explains that she was secretly studying Young-eun's old sketches so that her weaker skill set wouldn't be judged by those around her. Young-eun calls everyone on the team, including Sunju, to the storeroom. She tells them her idea to use the jersey fabric for a collaboration with the mural artist that Jae-guk photographed. For the lead design, Young-eun wants to use one of So-young's submissions. Everyone but Sunju voices their agreement. When Young-eun questions her silence, Sunju says that she doesn't feel right about staying at Sono. Young-eun lays out all the efforts Sunju jeopardized and tells her to apologize to the team by getting results this season. The team begins contacting influencers to publicize the collaboration. When Chi-hyung suggests Hi-rin, everyone rules her out as impossible. So-young tells Chi-hyung that she'll forgive his false accusations if he can convince Hi-rin to join them. Mi-suk gets a second doctor's opinion, and he confirms that she has pancreatic cancer. As she drives out of the hospital parking lot, she is hit with a wave of pain and crashes her car into the wall. Jae-guk is editing his photos when Taek-soo calls him, wanting help with screenshotting proof of the scam. As they talk, Taek-soo learns that Jae-guk is a freelance photographer. He asks Jae-guk to photograph an upcoming sports day at the school, where he is the vice principal. Later that night, Young-eun gets a call from Jae-guk. She tells him she misses him and wants to meet, sending him running to her. When they reach each other, she agrees to break up like he previously suggested. The next day, Gwang-soo makes a fuss after finding out that Young-eun offered Ms. Choi a contract. Chi-hyung exerts his influence as the CEO's son and steps in to remind Gwang-soo that he put the factory list together. Young-eun's team partners with Vision PR and Jae-guk to organize a live internet broadcast for the debut of the collaboration collection. Hi-rin participates after Chi-hyung, who's also her ex, agreed to answer all her calls for 100 days. Yoo-young watches the broadcast and notices Jae-guk's pictures. We flash back 10 years to Yoo-young, dissuading Soo-won from dating Young-eun. She tells Soo-won that she won't do nothing if he insists on continuing the relationship. The broadcast is a huge success, raking in a high viewership and 20,000 pre-orders. The collaboration team goes out for celebratory drinks. Young-eun's phone rings. The name on the screen is Soo-won, and she's too shocked to pick up. As Jae-guk arrives to celebrate, a message asking how Young-eun has been comes through from Soo-won's number. Jae-guk, Yoo-young, and Hyo-K share dinner. Yoo-young tries to bait Jae-guk into telling Hyo-K about Young-eun, but he keeps his lips sealed. Yu Young takes this as a sign that he knows he shouldn't be dating Young-eun. We then see Yu Young calling Young-eun and sending her the message from Soo-won's old phone. On a new day, Yu Young meets Young-eun and talks about the circumstances of Soo-won's death. When Young-eun wants to know why Yu Young brings this up, Yu Young lectures her for dating Jae-guk. Meanwhile, Chi-suk meets with Do-hoon and the Vision PR team. He avoids her eyes and speaks only to the room. Afterwards, he only replies to her text with a curt yes. When she tries a different tactic and calls him, he directs the call to Soo-ho. Jae-guk tells Do-hoon that Young-eun is Soo-won's old girlfriend. Do-hoon is understanding of their attraction but won't support the relationship, reminding Jae-guk of the potential fallout, especially for Young-eun. Young-eun calls Jae-guk and asks him to meet her in the office storeroom. She wants to know why Yu Young interrogated her, and Jae-guk reveals that Yu Young was Soo-won's fiancé during the time that he dated Young-eun. Young-eun takes the news calmly, only cursing Soo-won, without any real venom. Sono's new collaboration has been outperforming Claire Marie in sales. Feeling the pressure, In-ae resorts to spreading a rumor that Young-eun conspired with Ms. Choi's factory to Gwangsu. Chi-hyung and So-young deliver a gift from Sono to Hai-rin. She says that Chi-hyung was at her place last night. He rushes to explain to So-young that Hai-rin got drunk and called him for a lift home. Hai-rin also discloses that they used to date. So-young is unfazed by it all. Mi-suk gets a call from her mother-in-law, who complains that Mi-suk doesn't spend enough money on her in gifts. We cut to Mi-suk at the bank closing all her accounts. Back at the one's office, Young-eun and Jae-guk are huddled together choosing movie tickets. Chi-suk sees them and clears her throat, warning them to move apart just before Seo-hwang comes down the hallway. That night at Mi-suk's apartment, Soo-ho complains that Mi-suk has been making infomercial purchases for herself and her mother instead of buying his mother gifts. Mi-suk tells him that his mother has consistently taken her extra money and refuses to continue living for anyone but herself. Jae-guk is planning to rush over to Young-eun's apartment, but Mi-suk beats him to it, carting along her boxes of infomercial purchases. Young-eun tries to prise the truth of Mi-suk's behavior out, but Mi-suk won't relent. Young-eun tells Mi-suk about the call from Soo-won's number and about him having a fiancé while they dated. Young-eun self-examines her feelings and finds more indifference than anything else. Mi-suk is proud of her for growing up and learning to move on. The next day, Chi-suk barges into Do-hoon's office and cages him into a corner, asking why he's been ignoring her. He tells her he's been drawing a line between them to avoid being the only one getting his hopes up and then being disappointed. Chi-suk realizes that that is how she felt every time she fell into a one-sided love. Young-eun is called into CEO Hwang's office as Gwangsu is leaving it. CEO Hwang asks her if she accepted a bribe from Ms. Choi's factory, and Young-eun denies it. He then reminds her that she was able to finish her studies and come this far because he supported her financially. He tells her not to chase what doesn't belong to her, obviously implying that she should stay away from Jae-guk. After the workday ends, Young-eun waits in the rain for Jae-guk, who's been held up at a shoot. She's about to leave when he finally arrives. At a bar, Chi-suk tells Do-hoon that she won't return his feelings because of the lack of mystery in their relationship. Meanwhile, Young-ja sneaks into Taek-soo's phone and finds Jae-guk's contacts saved under what sounds like a woman's name, although it's just a shortened version of the word witness. Young-eun takes Jae-guk to her apartment to get dried off. She tells him about the call from Soo-won. We flash back to her replying to the message, asking if she's been well by simply saying that she has. She then deletes his number. In the present, Young-eun tells Jae-guk that her life became so busy that she eventually forgot she still had Soo-won's number saved. The next day, Jae-guk confronts Yu-young, calling Soo-won's phone while in her office. When it rings from within Yu-young's bag, his suspicions that she used it to fool Young-eun are confirmed. Yu-young tries to use Hyo-kei's feelings as an excuse for her behavior. Jae-guk calls Hyo-kei right then and tells her that he's dating Young-eun. We see a new development in Jae-guk's career. Parisian conglomerate DPHB wants him to shoot for their various luxury brands. At Hill's department store, where Yu-young is a director, she decides to cut all domestic storefronts and replace them with international brands. CEO Hwang gives Young-eun until the end of the month to reverse the decision, or he'll dissolve Sono. Young-eun asks Chi-suk if she did anything to cause trouble. Chi-suk has a flashback to when she got drunk and told her dad that Jae-guk likes Young-eun. While tending to Soo-won's grave, Hyo-kei has a flashback to Jae-guk declaring that he plans to continue dating Young-eun. Back at Vision PR, Cedric Roux, the director of marketing for DPHB, arrives to meet with Jae-guk. Jae-guk lays down some conditions, including shortening DPHB's proposed 10-day timeline to 1 week. He also happens to be the vendor that sold Young-eun Jae-guk's photo 10 years ago. Young-eun goes to Hills to try and convince Yu-young not to cut Sono. Yu-young won't change her decision, reasoning that Sono has no competitive edge over international brands. A later flashback also shows Yu-young saying that she's cutting Sono because of Young-eun's relationship with Jae-guk. Chi-suk dangles a promotion before Gwang-soo to spur him into using his Hills contacts to save Sono. He sets up a golf game with Vice President Choi from Hills and instructs Young-eun to tag along. Suho begins to notice that something is wrong with Mi-suk. He assumes she's lost all her money by investing in stocks, and she lets him believe it instead of telling him the truth. Days later, it's time for the golf game. Vice President Choi avoids giving Young-eun a window to discuss Sono. After the game, they sit down for dinner, and Vice President Choi stalls business again, finding a sleazy way to grope Young-eun's hand instead. After dinner, Vice President Choi wants Young-eun to ride in his car back to Seoul to grab another round of drinks. She misses an incoming call from Mi-suk as he insists that she won't have another chance to talk. Young-eun, having had enough, tells Vice President Choi that she's suffered through his unprofessional behavior all day. She tells him that she won't let him use her desperation to coerce her into performing sexual favors. On her way back to her own car, Young-eun calls Mi-suk. Mi-suk says she's in pain before a crashing sound can be heard, and she stops responding. Young-eun tries to contact Suho, but he doesn't answer, too busy romancing Min-kyung. When Young-eun and the paramedics reach Mi-suk's apartment, they find her collapsed on the bathroom floor. Mi-suk is taken to hospital, and her condition stabilizes. Suho arrives, and the couple cries together. Young-eun goes to her car to give them some privacy and pretends to call Jae-guk. She talks about how angry she is that she spent the day entertaining Vice President Choi while Mi-suk was in pain. Later, when Young-eun gets to the street outside her building, Jae-guk is there waiting for her. He tells her he finished a week's worth of work in 3 days so he could come back early. At the hospital, Suho cries at Mi-suk's bedside, disappointed in himself for not realizing she was sick. We flash back to Young-eun at her bedside urging her to start chemotherapy instead of fearing the side effects. Mi-suk tells Young-eun to stop giving her hope after the doctors told her it's too late for a full recovery. Young-eun asks Jae-guk for a one-time favor. We cut to her in a meeting room with Cedric, where she shows him Sono's recent collaboration broadcast. When it ends, he tells her the story of how Jae-guk wrote the note in her portfolio 10 years ago. He also gives Sono the go-ahead to open a pop-up store in the Lafayette department store in Paris for 2 months. If Sono performs well, they'll get a permanent storefront. Our 4 leads discuss their upcoming trip to Paris for the pop-up store over celebratory drinks. Chi-suk also drops the news that her father now knows about Jae-guk and Young-eun, telling them he's likely to fire Young-eun if their Paris venture fails. Do-hoon walks Chi-suk home, and she gets an idea for how to take the heat off Young-eun before they go to Paris. She tells Do-hoon that what she's about to do is purely business and pulls him in for a kiss after ringing the doorbell. Her stunned father watches through the monitor. Once inside, Chi-suk acts like she's passionately in love with Do-hoon and tells her father that he's treating Young-eun unfairly. She says she doesn't want to lose her friend because of him. The news about Sono's Parisian pop-up store is released with much fanfare, and Korean department stores want to extend their contracts with Sono while reducing fees. It's enough to give Young-eun the power to meet with Yoo-young and pull Sono from Hills herself. The next day, Hyo-tae calls Young-eun and introduces herself as Soo-won's mother, asking to meet. Young-eun says that she sees no reason to meet Soo-won's mother, but she will meet with Jae-guk's mother. We see Young-eun and Hyo-tae's meeting. If Young-eun can prove the sincerity of her love for Jae-guk, Hyo-tae says she will support their relationship. Young-eun visits Sono's storefront in Hills. While she's there, customers complain because of their limited range of sizes. The manager complains that this problem makes their inventory slow-moving, and she's considering taking up an offer from Hills to manage one of the new imported brands. Young-eun reports these issues to Gwang-soo, who is unwilling to spare the money needed to arrange for new patterns and different factories. Yoo-young has a nervous breakdown after passing by Young-eun. She has a flashback to the night of Soo-won's death when she pleaded with him to continue their marriage. He drove off after his phone rang with an incoming call from Young-eun. Yoo-young now blames Young-eun for his death. Young-eun and Jae-guk run into one of Soo-won's old friends after a movie. Young-eun's fighting spirit is left diminished. Jae-guk, still optimistic, asks to meet her mother. At Vision PR, Chi-suk and Do-hoon enter into a fake dating contract that will last until the end of their Paris trip. The pair is interrupted by Suho handing in his resignation letter so that he can care for Mi-suk. Mi-suk returns to her apartment in the middle of the day to find Suho already there, cooking a meal for her. He apologizes to her on his knees while slapping himself for selfishly having thought of himself first, their daughter second, and Mi-suk last when he found out about her illness. Chi-suk, overcome with grief, confronts Young-eun for keeping the truth about Mi-suk from her. She tells Young-eun to convince Mi-suk to receive treatment while she arranges for the best hospital and doctors. On the day of Taek-soo's retirement celebration, he invites Jae-guk to take photos for the occasion. When Jae-guk introduces himself, Young-ja puts 2 and 2 together and realizes he is Hyo-tae's son. Young-eun drops the news that Jae-guk is her boyfriend, much to Young-ja's delight. After the celebration, Young-eun goes to her parents' house with Young-ja, while Jae-guk goes out to eat with Taek-soo. They separately reveal that Jae-guk is Soo-won's brother. Both of her parents then condemn their relationship. Min-kyung, annoyed that Soo-ho hasn't answered her texts since his resignation, comes to his apartment. He sneaks into the hallway to try and make her leave, but Mi-suk notices them. Min-kyung pretends like Do-hoon sent her to get a handover from Soo-ho, and Mi-suk invites her inside. Mi-suk, her expression despondent, pretends to go to the dry cleaners while they talk. At Sono the next day, Young-eun and the team continue to push for updated sizes. Gwang-soo opposes them until Young-eun threatens to go over his head. Jae-guk enjoys a meal at his mother's house and explains how he liked the intimacy of photographing people that he felt at the retirement celebration, something he's lacked as an illegitimate child. Hyoke asks if he plans to marry Young-eun, and he is willing to if she is. Hyoke then asks him to invite Young-eun over for a meal. After work, Young-eun and Chi-suk alter clothes that Mi-suk discarded because the weight loss caused by her illness has made them too big for her. Mi-suk is ecstatic when they present them to her. It's enough for her to decide to accept treatment so that she can live without regrets. That night, Do-hoon drives Chi-suk home. They sit in his car outside her house, and he tells her that letting someone go in peace can be another form of love. When she asks to lean on his shoulder, he says that she can always lean on him. CEO Hwang arrives home and sees the two of them together. The next day, CEO Hwang corners Do-hoon and has already guessed that their relationship is a ruse. Fortunately, he approves of Do-hoon, predicting that he won't break Chi-suk's heart like her past boyfriends. Sono's senior members continue to hit obstacles as they try to move forward with the sizing changes. In the meantime, Chi-hyung and So-young help at the warehouse. Chi-hyung struggles and is ready to give up when they are asked to help cut loose threads. So-young tries to stop him from leaving, telling him to do his part. The next day, Young-eun arrives at Hyoke's house before Jae-guk. On her way to use the bathroom after being told to wash her hands, she is faced with Soo-won's old room and stands frozen. Hyoke monologues about how Soo-won will always be in their hearts. She asks if Young-eun is prepared to live every day with his ghost. After Jae-guk arrives, Young-eun excuses herself and leaves early. Jae-guk notices Soo-won's room on display and confronts Hyoke. She says that it was necessary to test Young-eun's resolve. Jae-guk runs out and catches up to Young-eun. He takes her to the photo studio he has acquired, which he plans to use for the next 2 months to take portraits. If he likes the work, he may stay indefinitely. When Young-eun explains her fears, he says they don't need his mother's approval. Young-eun has a flashback to Hyoke announcing that she won't stay around to watch Jae-guk be happy with the woman that caused Soo-won's death. Young-eun regrets her relationship with Soo-won, saying that she loves Jae-guk enough to want to erase her 2 months with Soo-won. She's ashamed of these feelings, and Jae-guk embraces her as she cries. We see a clash between Hyoke and Young-ja. Hyoke gains the upper hand with the news of Soo-won's death, instructing Young-ja to restrain her daughter. Meanwhile, the couple in question reaffirms their love. Do-hoon, looking dapper in a tailored suit with his hair gelled back, makes another foray into the one's office to give Chi-suk a flower bouquet. She's dazzled by his new appearance and agrees to a date. Young-eun visits Jae-guk at his studio. With a running customer count of 0, he's decided to charge each customer only 5,000 won for unlimited pictures. Mi-suk, feeling time slipping away, forces her crying daughter to learn to dress herself without help. At the same time, Soo-ho meets with Min-kyung and realizes that she's more concerned about the impact of his absence on her job than on her heart. That night, Do-hoon takes Chi-suk on a date to the Namsan Lovelocks. He tells her that, while she can keep viewing their relationship as a contract, he plans to continue his unrequited love for her in earnest. After adding a love lock to the fence, Do-hoon gives Chi-suk the key so that she can remove the lock when she ends their relationship. Young-ja visits Young-eun at her apartment, pleading with her to end things with Jae-guk. Young-eun explains that the hardest part of her relationship with Soo-won was ending things before her heart was ready, and she can't fathom doing it again. Nevertheless, Young-ja continues her lecture. The next day at the one's office, Young-eun meets with a domestic fabric vendor and offers him a business proposal. Young-eun visits Jae-guk's studio to find that he has gone out to get lunch. Yoo-young uses the opportunity to harass her and only leaves after Jae-guk returns. Jae-guk follows Yoo-young to her car. She tells him that she wants Young-eun to feel the pain of losing a partner without having caused that loss. Jae-guk reveals to her that Soo-won was speeding through the rain on the night he died to break up with Young-eun. In a flashback to their phone call, Soo-won tells Jae-guk not to be a coward like him. Later, Young-eun and Chi-suk take Mi-suk to Jae-guk's studio since Mi-suk wants to get her picture taken before she loses more weight. The three friends have fun, laughing and dancing together as Jae-guk takes their photos. That night, Young-ja finds Young-eun and Jae-guk at the studio. She warns Jae-guk away from Young-eun, saying that an illegitimate child like him has no right to upend her daughter's life. Young-ja leaves the studio with an outraged Young-eun right on her heels. Hailing a taxi, Yoonja threatens to go back and hound Jae-guk again if Young-eun doesn't get in. Ji-suk has Do-hoon meet her at the Love Locks again to announce that she wants to date for real. She kisses him and throws away the key to their lock, ready to jump into their relationship and live without regrets. The following day at the One's office, we learn that the fabric vendor accepted Young-eun's proposal. Her proposal is shown to have been an advance payment to resolve the problem of fashion brands lowering the amounts they offer for domestically produced fabrics, preventing domestic vendors from committing to high quality. Young-eun reasons that if Sono continues to purchase from overseas fabric vendors, they will have to continuously raise the price of their clothes until customers are better off buying direct from overseas fashion brands. With the added security of constant quality checks, CEO Hwang enthusiastically agrees. Yoonja serves Taek-soo with divorce papers, saying that she doesn't want to waste the rest of her life being his caregiver. After work, Young-eun goes to see Jae-guk at his studio. She gets angry at him for not complaining about the way Yoonja spoke to him. When he tells her that he's let people comment on his birth all his life, she gets angry at him for that too. She then fumes about the way he causally downgraded his career for her. Jae-guk is moved that she cares enough to badger him when no one else has before. He thinks to himself that he has finally met his true love, and then says as much. Young-eun warns him that she'll keep getting angry, and he assures her that he'll keep loving her anyway. Young-eun has a flashback to the day she went to Hyoke's house for lunch. Hyoke proclaims that the guilt Jae-guk will feel once she removes herself from his life will be on Young-eun's head. She asks if Young-eun thinks they can be happy with this hanging over them. Back in the present, Young-eun returns Jae-guk's declaration of everlasting love.